All right, kids. Adolescence is a TV show currently on Netflix about a 13-year-old who is accused of murdering a classmate, which leaves his family, his therapist, and the detective in charge all asking, what really happened? Netflix revealed that Adolescence had broken records for a limited series, with 66.3 million views after 2 weeks. And it was recently in the news because a right-winger claimed that the plot of the show was based on a true story from a real-life homicide involving a black kid. Like, they race-swapped the actual killer from a black man/migrant to a white boy. Wow. So, this man, who cried anti-white propaganda, didn't or couldn't recognize that Adolescence is supposed to be about the manosphere, believe it or not. Looking like an old chewed up sugar daddy that fell on the floor and got hair stuck on it. According to Variety, producer Hannah Walters said that alongside receiving lots of messages from parents worried about the dangers of incel culture and toxic masculinity online, she had many from teenagers. With that said, and while I'm not going to focus on Adolescence the show, haven't seen it, I hope someone checked Jamie Miller's search history, because if he's into adult entertainment, he might be gooning.
What are the effects of corn on your mind? It causes you to be antisocial, it causes you to be bad at eye contact, and it teaches you to objectify women, which teaches you to hate women. When you objectify women, you feel entitled to them. But because you're all weird and antisocial from watching all that corn, you get no bitches. This is how the pipeline begins. Because you get no bitches, you look up how to get bitches. Who capitalizes on the how to get bitches market? That's right. Right-wing conservative podcasts.
That's comedian Demetrius Fields talking about today's topic, Gooners. Now, you cannot search Gooners on TikTok. And if you do on Twitter, well, you might become one. A gooner is defined a few ways. This time last year, thanks to Anne Hathaway, the phrase kind of trended after an ex-post from the British news outlet The Guardian labeled her as a secret gooner. In that case, it meant an Arsenal Football Club fan. On Urban Dictionary, it's one who is completely and miserably addicted to porn but embraces and loves it. A recent survey from Common Sense Media found that, on average, kids in America are first discovering pornography online at age 12. The report also confirms that the majority of teen respondents, ages 13 to 17, have watched pornography online. And some have seen it by age 10 or younger. Some find it by accident, others were looking for it and watch intentionally. Yet, incels and groypers in general, and gooners specifically, seem to hate, better yet, fear girls and women. And they resent the ladies they pay to watch. I could easily make this episode about violence, but it's the precursors. All over the internet, there's telltale signs bubbling under the creaky floorboards that aren't squeaking due to onomatopoeia, if you know what I mean. The rise of the Gooners will be live streamed. The revolution will be on social media. One misogynist tweet and Reddit post at a time. Like some man on Twitter claiming that Rachel Zegler of Snow White, having back hair, I guess, is the reason why Disney's losing money on the movie. Who's to blame for this? Is there blood on the hands of the right wing? Are their palms too hairy to tell? Does this have anything to do with toxic masculinity? Women telling men that they don't need them and are useless. As you're about to see, Middle America says it's media and messaging. They might want to look in the mirror. Let's get started.
Bro, 40 million? She making more than NBA players, bro. Why are y'all gooning so much? Stop it. You know you can get free shit, right? You know there's free shit that you can goon to. I'm not saying that you should be gooning, because you should be trying to get off that shit pronto. You should not be fucking stroking your chicken, but 40 mil? Bro, there's free shit. If you're really that addicted, there's free shit out there. Why y'all paying $40 million? Oh my.
Oh yeah. Here's another definition for gooner. In a video entitled, Sophie Rain Robbed Desperate Men of $43 million, this one, not this one, surprised me. I thought this kid's rant would place the onus on women taking advantage of men rather than men taking money out of their own pockets for donkeys on demand. Good job, homie. Anyway, Sophie Rain, if that's her real name, is a 20-year-old, if that's her real age, OnlyFans creator who has reportedly made $68 million total since she began her career on the adult subscription service. She has stated that her motivation was to move out of her parents' place, and she saw her sister using OnlyFans to make money, so she decided to give it a try. What's more interesting is, 1, Sophie was working as a waitress before creating content on OnlyFans. 2, she's a Christian who attends church when she can. And 3, she maintains that she's a virgin. So, when someone asks, is Sophie Rain actually a virgin or is it all marketing? Then another says, if it's true, then she's a keeper. That per the New York Post. There you have purity being seen as a P-orn selling point and chastity being deemed a desirable quality by people who want to have sex with her or watch her have sex. Hey, let's see if a male OnlyFans content creator's experience is similar to his female counterparts.
I went full-time a year ago. So it's been a pretty big year. I've traveled to the States a few times to shoot content with some big names. I make videos. It's been really fun.
Do you ever get judgment from peers, and how do you overcome that? Or are you just I don't care?
No, I'm pretty lucky as a man. Not many people judge you for being a sucker. I got a lot of female friends who have been cut off from their family and things like that. As a man, it's just handshakes and high fives from everyone.
Right. High fives all around. Maybe not to the hand that was pounded on by his fist twice when he said, I make videos. Did he wash his hands? And if by clapping, you know he didn't mean round up applause, then you're not the type whose only knowledge of positions is in analyzing how men pose next to women. Who exactly made these? They're even judging the baby, but more on men checking out other men later. Look, it's no surprise that the most searched for stars on P-Hub are overwhelmingly women. And I can't imagine that Gooners are encouraging one another to consider careers in adult entertainment just to get lucky. But peeping the most searched for terms, I bet it's them choosing anime, animation, and trans categories. During the GOP National Convention, by the way, there's this myth that came from Tinder statistics. Kind of not really, which suggests that most women are only choosing very few men. And it gets hard. Dating, finding a match, on apps in particular. You will likely recognize that Gooners and incels will not blame other men for taking all the sex and the perceived stiff competition.
The 80-20 theory is the theory that 80% of women are attracted to only 20% of men. Why this is harmful is that guys that feed into this online feel like they're owed something. It's going to make them feel ashamed, and that can lead to them feeling disdain or even hatred towards women. So is it all true? When guys are thinking about that 20%, they're probably thinking of guys who are really rich and cut and good looking. Research shows that women are actually looking for intelligence and emotional stability more so than those other things. And what men are looking for tends to be more around attractiveness and sexual desirability more so than women.
The manosphere is holding this online dating rule against women rather than other men. This idea is actually a misinterpretation of something called the Pareto principle, which says that 80% of consequences come from 20% of causes. For example, 80% of the wealth is owned by 20% of the population. Has to be worse by now. This 80-20 thing came up in Adolescence when a character explains to his father, whose dad is a police officer, 80% of women are attracted to 20% of men. Women, you must trick them because you'll never get them in a normal way. Responding to this 80-20 rule while debunking it, a relationship coach is quoted by Cosmopolitan as saying, "Look around you. You don't just see women dating models." And yeah, I was going to say proof is in those around you, but there's a male loneliness epidemic for incels, described in this study as a ragtag collection of young males who have rallied around their shared experience of romantic rejection. Results from this study indicate that incels self-reported having a higher degree of social and emotional loneliness and lower levels of social support from friends and family. Incels also engaged in more negative coping strategies such as behavioral disengagement and self-blame. This social and emotional loneliness among boys and men manifests itself into gooning, which in turn leads to objectifying women and getting angry when they reject you or aren't hot enough for you.
And I get a lot of comments from men that are saying things like, well, I could still beat you up. Or the average man could still you, right? They have denser bones and stronger muscles. They may not be bigger than you, but they could still you. right? Lots of those. A lot of those comments. And then I talk about trans women in sports and how I think they belong in women's sports. I don't think you guys are actually concerned about our safety when you're constantly in my comments threatening me. I just don't think you care that much. So it's almost like the common thread here is that you guys just fantasize about violence against women. Just an observation.
Let me get this straight. Men and boys tune into a fitness influencer's TikTok, whether or not it showed up on their For You pages, feel intimidated by how big, strong, and independent she is, which in turn doesn't make them want to goon, 2 of the 3 definitions I mentioned earlier. Then threaten her with violence when they could learn a thing or 3 about something that could provide them with physical and mental health benefits. So it's like you can't beat it or join them. I mean, not like beat your you-know-what, beat her. Only not domestic violence-y. And to be clear, the likes of Taylor Swift can get it too. Not in that way. Incels can't stand her. But women really can't win. They're either too thin or too fat for too many. All of this threatens masculinity. A study published in the journal Social Psychology explored what happens when men feel their masculinity is under threat. The author stated that men's power over women is a big part of men's masculinity, and threats to masculinity led to greater public discomfort, anger, and ideological dominance among those studied. That anger, worded better than me by Media Matters, predicted greater endorsement of ideologies that implicitly promote men's power over women. Men need a hug, a role model or something, therapy. Close friendships and social structure would help. As we proceed, and with the right getting manliness and masculinity wrong, going against psychologists, it becomes incumbent upon the left to step in and support. But this ain't it. If progressives want to win back young men, then they must talk to them and address their needs instead of constant scolding. All the finger wagging just drives them to Rogan, Peterson, and the Tate brothers. And they do talk to young men. However, Andrew Tate don't like average guys either.
Your lives are shit. If I was forced to endure a year of your life, it would be the worst level of depression imaginable. Your life proves you to be a peasant or slave. All of you are lazy, weak, and stupid. You are poor, uninteresting, and weak compared to me. There is no progressive voice who is as dismissive of men's problems as the Tates. No one as disgusted by the average man, or so gleefully enthusiastic in their ridiculing of us.
It's here where I'll bring up toxic masculinity. Now, I shouldn't have to say this, but toxic masculinity refers to one kind of masculinity, not masculinity in and of itself. There are many forms, countless. If I told you blueberries were rotten, you wouldn't think I meant all berries. Oops. And from not getting any, I'm sure incels would know that I'm referring to fruity little blue balls. Me making fun of incels and gooners isn't helping. In January of 2019, for the first time ever, the American Psychological Association released guidelines to help psychologists work with men and boys. The big takeaway was, and is, that traditional masculinity marked by stoicism, competitiveness, dominance, and aggression is, overall, harmful. Men socialized in this way are less likely to engage in healthy behaviors. What's telling is that the APA came out with specialized tools and guidelines for psychologists to work with girls and women in 2007, and they had no problem with it whatsoever. See, men commit 90% of homicides in the United States and represent 77% of homicide victims. They're the demographic group most at risk of being victimized by violent crime. They are 3.5 times more likely than women to die by suicide, and their life expectancy is 4.5 years shorter than women's. If anybody's hurting masculinity, it's men who believe there's one narrow way to be masculine, and they just so happen to be it.
I have rules for men. They're just funny. They're not that serious. Like, you don't eat soup in public. You don't cross your legs. And you don't drink from a straw. And one of the reasons you don't drink from a straw is because the way your lips purse. It's very effeminate. And his excuse was, well, I was drinking a milkshake. Again, You shouldn't be drinking a milkshake. Milkshakes are for kids. Yeah.
That's Fox News' Jesse Waters admitting that he has been analyzing how another man's lips could be pleasing and acceptable to him under certain conditions. He's got a kink, no shame. But hey, according to Jesse, these rules are just funny, not serious. Like when Jesse Waters went on air and said that he let the air out of a woman's tires that he was trying to date. She couldn't go anywhere. She needed a lift. I said, hey, you need a lift? She hopped right in the car. Jesse had to address the story later and correct the record. The thing is, though, he cheated on his then wife with that woman that he later married.
The ice cream, you know my rule about men eating soup in public. I don't think it's manly to go like that with a soup and you're blowing on it. It's just not a good look. I think the same thing for ice cream. You should save that for vacation. A grown man, especially the president, should not be licking ice cream in public.
This grown man wants other men to adjust their behavior in public based on their surroundings. What's more manly? Presenting yourself the way you want, when you want, regardless of the opinion of those around you, or refusing to have milkshakes, soup, and drinking from straws outside of the comfort of your own home, which Jesse definitely does for fear of judgment.
Rules for men. Men don't wish other men happy birthday. What kind of husband goes grocery shopping with his wife?
Bad jokes or not, it's bad messaging from the network that calls leftists snowflakes, but would completely melt if having to apply this macho logic to conservative men. Here's a clip from Fox Decoded doing it for them.
And men just look at another man and you can kind of know if he's an athlete. Kind of look at the way he can go down the stairs or throw something, catch a lighter, just maneuver his body in that way. You look at this guy. I've never even seen him throw a football. He goes to a game, doesn't throw a football. Never seen him hit a golf ball. I've never seen him really do anything athletic. Meanwhile, I've seen Trump hit a tennis ball, hit a golf ball, throw a football, catch a baseball. I've seen him do all of that. So there's a lot of mystery around Walls. We don't really know if he's even a good shot. I mean, I know Trump's sons are good shots. They're better shots than some of the Secret Service agents.
When people call you a snowflake, just remember they're quoting Fight Club, a satire written by a gay man about how male fragility causes men to destroy themselves, resent society, and become radicalized. And don't forget, all that red pill stuff, well, The Matrix was written by trans women. So there's that.
They see a random girl, you know what I'm saying, in the comments. If she looks too pretty, if she's half dressed, whatever, they're in the comments arguing. Nobody's gonna want you in 10 years. Just triggered by shit. Something is wrong with them. But for a group of men that just don't like promiscuous activity, y'all don't fuck with that shit at all. Y'all sure do fund that shit so much. Y'all put a lot of your hard-earned money into that industry.
Fox News will tell you that Hollywood and flicks like Frozen and the Barbie movie tear down men while trying to empower women. And if you're a man and you feel like the villains in those two movies represent you, then those movies are talking about you. You can't tell us about how men used to go to war and then complain about a war on masculinity with battles being waged in movies made for teen girls and bullets being Disney princesses being heroes. And if raising real men means that they will stick in their families and be great dads and be great providers and great husbands, what happens to manliness if, I don't know, a politician paid hush money to a tabloid so that news of his extramarital affair wouldn't ruin his campaign? Then what?
Well, I guess it comes down to whether you think this type of stuff needs to be in the public domain or not, and I think we probably disagree. I tend to think that it is a private matter.
If you're going to be the president?
And I think, yeah, I do. I don't think that...
It doesn't matter if you're president and you're having an affair.
Look, as far as I can tell, George Bush has been faithful to his wife. I don't think he's been that great of a president. That's just my personal... I know you disagree with me. It was brought into the public domain by her husband,
But if you're living a life that's a lie,
right,
if you're not honest, it's a character issue.
It is a character
don't we have a right to know before we elect somebody?
My feeling is it's a character issue. If I was looking at that person, do I want to marry this person? That's a decision. But it's for...
But if you cheat on your wife, are you going to be honest with your country?
I got you. You thought I was talking about the dude who has a lot of kids that he neglects with multiple baby mamas that he's not taking care of? No, the other one. If it wasn't for that clip being old and grainy and Sean Hannity looking younger and John Edwards was on the screen at the time. Okay, If you don't know who John Edwards is or was, then look him up. What he did was messed up. His wife was sick at the time, might be worse than the situation that TFG was in. And I shouldn't have to explain how much Sean Hannity has contradicted himself since he made those remarks in that video I just played from June of 2011. He could have said this exact same thing to and about a Republican presidential candidate who came down a golden escalator, bros, some 4 years later.
Amanda, I don't know what the truth is, and I'm a family values guy, and his wife is sick, and we wish her all the best. But I wonder if you think there would be a double standard if it were a Republican.
I hate to say that because, I mean, I explained the questions I think need to be answered, but there are reports from the LA Times putting kind of a speech code on their bloggers saying, please don't discuss this in various outlets. So there does seem to be a will to squelch these rumors or whatever they may be right now and not pursue the story.
Quote, explain to me. I'm just a regular guy, and I'm wondering if you can't keep the promise to your family, can't keep your promise to your wife, you're having an affair, you're lying about the affair repeatedly, why should the American people trust you when you say you're not going to lie to them? Why should we trust you? Is there a double standard here? Sean Hannity thought what John Edwards did, a Democrat, was a literal crime. The inconsistency. He's also divorced, family values and such. It said that females are hypergamous and they'll marry across and up in terms of status. And men are hypogamous. They'll marry across and down. While American women are choosing to remain single rather than settle for unsatisfying relationships, they are now more likely to marry a less educated man than men are to marry a less educated woman. It's amazing what women can achieve when they're not being held back by men. In terms of college degrees, they're killing it. Yet marriages are unequal in some ways, but men still technically make more money on the dollar. And I must confess, I genuinely don't know what to say to gooners and incels, partially because it seems like they want to be coddled. So I'll tell you what I say to 16 to 20-year-olds from time to time. As I've mentioned several times before, I'm currently a school administrator by day, and if there's one thing I've said most to my male students, it's, y'all talking about penises again? I've had to ask this once a day, most days, because they're always telling each other to suck them off, or they use the term glazing so often that I can't even count. Or if anyone says anything to them that they don't like, really, they will just say, get off my dick. They're homophobic, yet my gay male friends don't talk about penis as much as my students do. And to my students, stuff that's bad, negative, or stupid is gay. And my gay friends never bring up straight people. If there were to be a second thing that I frequently say to those same students, it's, you really don't like girls and women, do you? And no, I'm not saying that they're gay, but they are not interested in the hearts, souls, minds, thoughts, feelings, or experiences of girls and women who are playthings to them. The opposite sex is something to show off to other men as status symbols, body parts. Nothing more, nothing less. Like, I can see my students saying something like this, but maybe not posting it on the internet. The point is, I'm trying to catch them before they become this.
What's the longest you could be on a trip with you and your girl? Like, the longest. 5 days, 5 nights.
With your girl?
With your girl.
4 days.
Yeah, 4 days,
3 nights.
My nigga. My nigga. After that, it's
with your girl. We gotta go home, son.
I got a permanent headache now. First of all, because you talking OD. It's just you and me. It's no distractions.
If it's nobody else there on the trip, you sick. Like,
that's what I'm saying. It's not like you could go hang out with people. It's just you and her having every meal, every drink, every conversation, every experience. God.
They don't like their girlfriends. They don't like women. They must be using them for something. I will give it to my students though. They are genuinely friends with a number of girls and women. No strings attached, no ulterior motives, and that's great. That's a start because there are too many who see women as the enemy, the ops. Take it personally when a woman that they don't even know says men are trash. Jumping to conclusions. Is that manly? There are videos on this here platform of macho men asking where all the masculine men went. The Dems want us to be women. We're being feminized. And I hang out with my wife and kids most often. There aren't significantly more queer folks in our lives than there were 6 years ago. What's going on in the world of the manosphere where they're getting bombarded with trans people who represent a small fraction of the US population? What channels they be watching? Why are so many different things threats to masculinity? And if one guy says, you're not a real man if you can't properly chop down a tree with an axe or something, and another says, you're not a real man if you can't dunk a basketball, how can both be right or wrong? You may have noticed that with me referencing Adolescence, alongside the quotes and examples I've used throughout this episode thus far, I've shown a lot of white people. That's on purpose. I'm hoping that they can essentially speak to themselves. The manosphere and incels and gooners are driven by white men. And what lies in their wake is felt more severely by black men and women. When it comes to dating, black men aren't highly desired. Black men barely even respond to black women. And the comments under a dark-skinned black woman's fitness video would be diabolical. I don't think black boys and men around me are watching Fresh and Fit, or Adolescence for that matter. What's being discussed is kind of ingrained, instilled. I read an article the other day about men trying to de-radicalize themselves. My hope is that I have made some aware of the issue and helped others to be more observant of these pathological behaviors. Perhaps I should talk about my own struggles and experiences in the future about rejection, getting cheated on, then meeting the woman who will become my wife and getting married. I know what it's like to not be liked. I'm a leftist progressive, and we don't even like ourselves. And please don't get me wrong, Democrats and liberals aren't getting this right all the time, but at least there's more tolerance and open-mindedness over there. Incels and gooners will act like that tolerance should be extended to their violent rhetoric. Oh, and there's nothing wrong with watching porn or creating it. And if you or someone you know is facing mental health struggles, emotional distress, alcohol or drug use concerns, porn addiction, I might add, or just need someone to talk to, there are caring counselors ready to speak. You are not alone. Call, text, chat 988 Lifeline. They have options for English and Spanish languages, as well as deaf and hard of hearing. There's also the crisis text line. Text HOME to 741-741, as well as the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255. That's all for today. We're gonna be all right.